Welcome. I'm so glad you're joining us today. And if you are concerned or if you are nervous about the financial situation going on right now with the stock market crash and then the upcoming housing crash and and what all is happening to the markets, you may not be affected directly right now, and but if you participate in any IRA, 401k and stuff like that, or you work for a company, those IRAs and 401ks are getting affected and very seriously. So if you are nervous as to what's going to happen, then you are at the right place today. All right. And if you want to know how to protect your money and take it to a whole new level, and not be worried about what keeps on happening. Right now it is the stock market crash, and then the same pundits are predicting, housing crash is coming too. And if you are a homeowner that has built up any equity in it, and then it is to your advantage, okay, you need to look at, I'm so glad that you joined. You need to listen very close to today. So you are at the right place, folks, if you are nervous about what all is happening to the stock market, because this is your money. All right. And this is your money, folks. And I have a proven track record. I'll be proving it to you, everything. I'm not saying, that, take my word for it. No. I'm going to be proving it. How to protect yourselves from this coronavirus initiated financial fallout, and now it is financial crash, whatever, and the same pundits are predicting that this is going to be even worse than what we had before, and no one ever predicted this thing. All right, so like I said, you are at the right place if any of these things are of concern. All right, and first let me share with you, why should you even listen to me? Who am I? What is my track record? Let me show it to you, and let's get into this thing. And I guarantee that this will be this could be a life-changing thing. So please turn off your phones, shut the door off, okay, and clean out any preconceived notions, and try to grasp what I'm saying, and this could financially help you a lot. Well, let's get started. My name is Beer Graywall, and I am a Sikh American, India-born Sikh American, financial strategist, advisor, and an author with a proven track record that people who had used my strategies did not lose any money during that last housing as well as the financial crash of 2007, 8, and 9. And matter of fact, they are way ahead of others who might have recovered from those losses. All right. So, folks, if you can overlook my my turban and my uncut hair, okay, and then which is part of my Sikh religion, and then I have something very important to share with you. And if you can overlook my accent or whatever you may or may not like about it, just overlook that. Try to see what I'm coming to, and that could be hugely financially benefit to you. All right. So now, before I go into my story, let me just share it with you. Last Wednesday, 1 week ago, on CNBC, the chief economist and former Federal Reserve Bank Vice Chairman, Alan Blinder, he said, well, March this year will go down in history as the day the second recession started, and then he said, usually they always wait for at least 2 quarters of negative growth, and the economy had been booming and stuff. No one ever expected that this could happen. All right, with the current administrations, okay, financial policies, and they were working, and everything is going great. And then this coronavirus comes in and throws everything. They said it is unprecedented, that never in history before it has happened that things have changed so fast, so quick, and getting so worse by the day. All right, and so. He had mentioned both financial crash, and he said the housing crash is coming very fast also with this thing. But good news is, okay, you are at the right place, folks. I'm so glad you are able to join. And I'm going to share with you those proven strategies that people who use these ones in the last crash, okay, did not lose, and they are way ahead of other people, who are, who might have recovered from those losses. All right. How did I come about? How can I have this kind of a record and, than other people and stuff, and other advisors? Here's the reason. I had been in the financial services industry in this great country of ours, since the early 80s. I was very successful, and I had several national quality awards, and standard of excellence and everything, I thought that I had, when it comes to money and finances, I had the world in the palm of my hands, and that nothing could ever happen to, especially me. All right. Then few things happened, just like this coronavirus, out of the blues. I never even expected in a million years, right? And I lost everything to foreclosure. Back in that was in 1995, and I lost my hilltop custom home in Aliso Viejo, California, also. All right. So, the turning point in my life came back in September of 1995 when the marshals came and we had to leave that house. When we were leaving, I looked back at my wife. She was carrying our 1-month-old son. When I looked at her, that changed my life. And at that time, I made a promise, that I am going to learn the rules of money. And my mission at that time became, I'm going to learn how to have financial security and peace of mind no matter what happens to the economy. Number 2, what happens to the stock market. Number 3, what happens to the taxes. And number 4, which we do not ever stop to think about it, to our health. Because we are the money-making machine of our family. Just like Federal Reserve Bank is for US, they are printing money, there. And you are the money-making machine for your family. All right? So, and if this machine breaks down, where will the money come from? So I knew the answers were somewhere there, so I just have to dig them out. So, I started, I took so many courses, read so many books, when it came to money, with that, view to have that financial security and peace of mind. All right. So, anyone who is scared of money, you should not be, all right? But without money, the world don't go around either, all right? So it's very important, and then very important to know how the money works, all right? So it took me years to figure it out, and the more I went into it, then I uncovered something else. The rich and famous people, how do they become? They are just people like you and me. Okay, how do they become financially secure. And so I found out another secret, in there, that, hey, they are using Uncle Sam, the IRS rules and regulations and the laws to their advantage. And these things had been there for over a century. And they have mastered this thing, and IRS says if you set up your money in a certain manner, you can have it, you can have your cake and eat it too, and take your money to whole new levels. People hate Uncle Sam, okay, now knowing what I know, okay, I show you, hey, make Uncle Sam your business partner. He's going to take your money and your financial security to whole new heights. I'll be discussing all of that. Now, I had gotten all those nuggets and I was doing it, and, it was going great. And the proof of that came in 2007, 8, and 9, when the people who had used our strategies to A, do their financial planning, okay, and B, homeowners who had done the home equity planning the way we suggested. By the way, that home equity planning that we've been doing, okay, I'll show you that Federal Reserve Bank study says the same thing. Okay, they came up in 2006, all right, that we had been doing for a long time. All right. So now, those people, they did not lose during that 2007, 8, and 9, housing as well as financial crash. And like I said, they are way ahead of other people who might have recovered from those losses. And folks, it is the same money. Let me get into this one, so this way, I know your time is very important. I want to stick to, okay, the nuggets that are very important for you to safely, okay, grow your money and not lose even a penny. I'm just saying something very, very unique here. You should play the stock market and not lose over there. I'm going to be proving it to you. So just stick till the end. And in the end, if you stick with me till the end, I'm going to reveal to you which IRS rules and regulations and the laws, I'll be revealing you all of that stuff, that if you set up your money that way, and it can take your money to whole new levels, so that's how my strategies are different than anyone else, okay, because I incorporate not only, proven financial strategies and products, but I incorporate the IRS rules and the laws governing money all into one, and that produced amazing results. And so that's why I claim that these are proven and time-tested. So you will be yourselves knowledgeable about it. All right. So let's get started. First of all, by the way, so that way, okay, I want to put you at ease, that you can be listening, let me show you the how you play the stock market and not lose in it. You get only the upside of the stock market without the downside risk. Now, this is an example because, and to be taken as an example only because I do not know your financial situation, you're right. So there are so many variables when it comes to money and money growth, you're right. So, and I'll show you the example, and this is what all is possible, okay. And so now, this is $500,000, and by the way, this fund that we are using, this is that S&P 500 that we hear about every day. All right, is S&P went up or went down and stuff like that. So this is one of the major indices that determine. So, and again, I'm not promoting one fund or the other over other or anything. No. Okay, I'm giving you this thing. These are the results that are happening with the people. All right, so there's $500,000, and I'll go deeper into this strategy later on. when the market goes up. Okay, in the black, the way we set it up, and in the red, it is traditionally the way we are used to. Okay, we put the money through some broker or whichever way, or even if you are investing yourselves directly. So we go in there. In the red is someone who went directly, and in the black is the way we suggest to set it up. All right, it can be done, and it is done. All right, and now when see here, the market starts to go down, your money gets frozen right there, and then when it starts to go back up, you start to go back up with it up to a cap. There is a cap as to how much profits you can take. And these results are with the caps, so don't get greedy. Okay, you come out like a bandit even with the caps in there. All right, and the other side of the cap is that you are guaranteed that you will never ever lose your principal or the gains that you have kept up till that time. See, here it is. For 2 years the market kept on going down. Your money was level here. Right? You didn't make anything and you didn't lose anything either, and you had kept all the profits. Then it starts to go back up. You start to go back up with it, up to that cap. And then here is 2007, 8, and 9, okay, when the crash happened. All right? And your money was frozen right here. And then after this one, just goes up. You go up along with it up to that cap. All right? And the difference, folks, here it is 418,000, okay, and here it's about 107,000. Now if the market goes up 10%, here it will go up only about 42,000. Here it will go up $107,000, okay, and it is the same money, the exact same fund. The key difference is, okay, how you set up the money, okay, and Warren Buffett, the richest man on earth, okay, he says, hey, the quickest, the fastest money and the most amount of money to be made is in the stock market. All right. And in that same breath, he says, most of the people lose their shirt in the stock market also because they don't know what they don't know. Okay, we've been programmed to be setting it like everyone else. All right. But I want you to know that all the rich and famous, including Warren Buffett, for their serious money, these are the strategies that they used to. And today I'm going to empower you with that knowledge also, how to do this thing. All right. So let's get going. Like I said, today's topic is, how to protect your money from this fast developing coronavirus financial crash happening. Okay. And so, folks, you do not have to be worried about it, and it should not. If you set up that money that way, and I'm going to in the end show you which program does that, and that all the stock market upside, this example that I showed you right here, right? This can be set on autopilot. You don't even have to worry at all. All right. And so these people who had set it up in here, they are not worried. They will, this money is sitting in there. If they want to take it out, it's available to them. It's liquid. All right. However, you just leave it in there, and it's dormant for as long as the market keeps going down. And when it will wake up when it starts to go up. And you are keeping all the profits also up till that time, to that cap. And your principal is safe. Wow, that's amazing. Yes, you are going to be empowered with that knowledge also. So let's get into it. Kick back and relax. And please, clear your mind's hard drive, okay? So, because I want you to get it. Otherwise, if you are thinking and justifying, this is what I've been doing, or this is what I could have done, or no, that's the past. So please, just for next few minutes, Just be in tune with me. This will give you those ideas, and then after that you can analyze all of those things, But I want you to quote unquote get it. All right? So we showed you how to make the money work for you. Today I'm going to be showing all of these things, right? Instead of you alone working, and I call it the analogy of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 horses working for you are much better than just you alone working, or you trying to put in overtime, or if you're a business person, you're putting in 60, 70, 80 hours a week and stuff like that, and missing out on life and ruining your health. No, it should not be that way. These horses are much more powerful, okay, than you just working alone for the money. All right, and you will yourselves see in a minute. All right. So this is what the rich and famous do. They keep on looking for hidden horses that they can wake up, and then put them to work for them. All right. We show you how to optimize your current assets, Anyone can say, well, give me new money and we'll invest it somewhere and stuff, But no. Just optimizing this thing without any new money is the key. And that's how I'm different, folks. This is how I'm different than anyone else. Okay, I'm going to show you what you currently have. And if you're wondering that, this is only for the rich and famous or anything, no. Whether you are starting out in life, okay, or whether you are on your way there, and or whether you've been, okay, in the the lower part of things, okay, and or even if you are a millionaire, okay, then please stick around. Here's the here it is. I call $1 million dash towards financial independence. All right, this is the exact same dollar which has 100 cents in it, and this is a 100-cent dollar, right? Same dollar. Some people are crawling with it, some people are walking with it, and some people are jogging. These are IRAs and 401ks right here, right? And I'm going to show you how to put that turbo booster here by making Uncle Sam your business partner, and it's the same money. So you can fly to this independence. And remember, I just mentioned, this is $1 million dash. Please take that thing out of your mind, okay? That, hey, if you are starting or struggling, that, hey, this is only for those rich and famous and stuff. I'm going to, next slide, I'm going to prove it to you how ordinary people can be millionaires, and how, if you have already achieved success, you are already a millionaire, how millionaires can be billionaires, and let me show it to you right here, right? So just get excited, folks, okay? That's why I said be in tune, okay? Let me prove it to you. Everything that I say, okay, I prove it. Here's how. $1 doubling every period for 20 periods. It's like 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8 and stuff. All right. And doubling every period for 20 periods. It does not have to be 20 years. It can be 20 months, 20 weeks, 20 days. It does not matter. All right. But get the concept of this thing. So now, these are two columns here. One is taxed as earned, and the other one is if the money is in completely tax-free environment. All right. This is the way it should be, and everyone should pay their fair taxes, and if you feel that I'm going to show you a creative way to lie or cheat on taxes, no, then you are in the wrong place. However, knowledge is power. And that's what I'm going to share with you, how ordinary people can become millionaires and millionaires become billionaires. And starting today, you can feel good about yourselves. All right, and this is how. Now, see here, we are legally supposed to pay taxes. I'm just showing you that the money double, right? So whenever we make any growth, whenever we make any money, we are supposed to pay taxes at the end of the year, right? And you may not be paying it because you have a lot of deductions and stuff. That's a separate issue, right? But legally, we are supposed to pay taxes. So then that after paying taxes, the rest of it doubles up again. Then you pay taxes second year, third year, so forth. And so, at the end of 20 periods, that money goes up to about $28,000. All right. However, now if that same money is in the tax-free environment, right? As Uncle Sam says, when you make him your business partner, you're right. Then, yes, you can have this money in the tax-free environment, and if it is in a tax-free environment, it's over $1 million. Folks, this is how we make millionaires out of ordinary people. And now if you are successful already, you are not in this 28,000, okay, you are $1 million here, you just add on some extra zeros to this one, to be on track to be a billionaire. So, folks, this is how it happens. And these laws and IRS rules had been there for over a century. This is not that I just came up with a creative idea. Like I said, the rich and famous have figured these things out, That's why you find them just. So, now, if you have here's $100,000 compounding at 8% for 30 years, right? If it is in taxed as earned environment, it will be up to about $500,000. And if it is in tax-free environment, it will be over $1 million. And one more thing, let me just go back here. So IRAs and 401ks, yes, are a step in the right direction. They are somewhere about halfway in here because they are tax deferred. But you still have to pay taxes when you take the money out. So this program is even much better. This is how you put that, the wings to your money to be completely, see this thing? Crawling, walking. This is IRAs and 401ks. This is how you put the turbo booster to your money to the finish line. All right. So just keep that thought in mind. And so there are four phases of savings and retirement. First is a contribution phase when we are young and saving money. The second is accumulation, which is middle ages when the money is compounding and growing. And third is distribution. That's at retirement. All right. And then fourth one is transfers when we check out to be with the Lord, at death when it transfers. All right. So if it is tax-free all the way through, then the money is set up according to the IRS rules and the laws and stuff, right? Then, these four green circles, that's how you put a turbo booster to your money. And towards the end, I'm going to show you which program has incorporated everything into it and set it up on autopilot, everything that I talk about, and that way you do not have to worry about it, And so, well, okay, like I said, those phases of savings and retirement, yes, these people are doing the right thing and they have earned my respect, okay, that they are good citizens, they are paying taxes at the end of the year. But they do not know what they don't know, right? And so here is IRAs and 401ks. These are tax deferred here during your contribution phase and accumulation phase, in the middle ages. But you are taxed when you need the money the most, which is at retirement, and they are taxed again if you don't set it up properly when you're after death, when it transfers to the beneficiaries. However, the turbo booster is, if you have 4 green circles, and it is exactly the same dollar. It's exactly that same 100-cent dollar. Yes, okay, different people. No wonder many of the people who are in these categories right here, they keep on struggling all their life, and they keep on, they have convinced themselves that, that is for the rich and famous only. Hey, those rich and famous are no different than you and I. They were like us before, but they just became enlightened as you are being enlightened today. Okay? And they just, change that thing. Okay, instead of hating Uncle Sam, okay, made him a business partner and taken their money to whole new levels. That's the only difference. This is nothing complicated, folks. Okay, and I'm going to be showing you what IRS says. Okay, which rules that you apply, so that way you can. Now, let's see. We already shown you that part of it, how to make Uncle Sam your business partner. And then, okay, I had mentioned that Warren Buffett says the quickest and the most amount of money to be made is in the stock market. But most of the people lose their shirt in the stock market also. And starting today, you do not have to worry about anything. Yes, you should and you must play the stock market, but without the losses. How you do that? Let's get into it. Okay, right now. This strategy is called, I call it the missed fortune strategies, because people miss out fortunes because they do not know what they don't know. All right? That the money can be set up this way. Also, within those exact same funds, okay, in this example, we are taking S&P 500, and I'm not promoting one fund or the other, okay, they all are good, but the key thing is, or good or bad, okay, I should not be saying this thing. I do not know who am I to analyze, this thing, because they work differently, and it depends what you want to accomplish, all right, but this example is that same S&P 500, it's right here, all right, so this strategy is called upside only lock-in. When the market goes up, okay, then you lock in. And then at the end of the year, the 365 days, okay, and they look at it. If it goes up, okay, then your money is locked in. If it goes down, it just remains there sitting doing nothing. All right? Upside only lock-in. Then this becomes a new reset point. See this thing? This time the market went up. Both the people who are directly in the stock market also, that's in the red. And the way we set it up, okay, suggest to set it up is in the black line right here. So here, both of them went up. Yes, you went up with them. This becomes now a reset point. All right, and you have kept your principal is safe, as well as you kept all the profits up till that this time also. All right, and then you reset and it restarts. Now this becomes a new starting point for the next year. All right, and here see, for 2 years the market kept on going down, and your money got frozen. You didn't make anything, and you didn't lose anything either. All right. And then market starts to go up. You start to go up with it. Right up to that cap. There is a cap, and the trade-off for that cap is that you will never lose your principal, and all the gains you keep them up till that time. All right. And then here is 2007, 8, and 9. Right when the market crashed. You remain leveled if you had set it up this way, and then you'll see, okay, in this example, like I said, in the end, so here it is, upside only, lock in, reset, and restart without the downside risk. All right. So here at this time, you'll see the example I'm just showing you. It was 418,000, and this was $107,000. And now if the market goes up 10%, let's just assume you're right, and then here it goes up about 42,000. Here it will be $107,000. Folks, this is how the rich and famous have figured it out. This is how you play the stock market, not the way the traditional people are, used to, or we are programmed that way, that's what when Warren Buffett said, hey, the quickest and the fastest and the most amount of money to be made is in the stock market. And in that same breath, when he says, that most of the people lose their shirt also because they don't know what they don't know, right? And rich and famous have figured these things out. And I'm not saying, that, hey, this is the only strategy to skin the cat, but knowing what I know, right? I do not, use any other strategies. I know all of them, all right, because this one proves it time and again. Plus, this is on autopilot. You don't even have to worry about it. Even during 2007, 8, and 9, my clients were calling me up nervous when the stock market started crashing, right? They were calling me, as it is happening right now. They were calling me, wow, what should we do? What's happening? I want to pull that money out. I said, don't worry. That was the best feeling I had. Don't worry, relax. Your money is safe. You do not have, you do not have to worry about it. Your money is safe. Your money gets frozen there, right? Frozen in the, from losses, not frozen from you. If you want to take the money out, you can get it out in a single call. All right, so it's liquid for you there, and but it is frozen from the losses. So, and then if you have this, see, you made money right here, number one. Then if you set it up according to the way Uncle Sam and the laws set it up that way, then your money will grow, compound, and pay out and transfer at death, all tax-free, folks. This is the key to your financial security, and these are the strategies that we have reserved for our high-paying clients. You're right. But now I could not sit back seeing people losing their hard-earned money, and many of them, they do not know what to do. They are a sitting duck. And folks, last time in 2007, 8, and 9, the people who had not used the proven strategies, all right, they were, let me get into this thing right now. Let me get into this thing so this way, I'm going to kill two birds with one. I'll be giving you the knowledge also and sharing with you what the reality happens, and I'm going to show you two realities. One is with the money, how things, and these things happen in 2007, and the other one will be going into home equity planning. All right, and in a minute, and over there, I'm going to show you the myth that all the equity that you have built up in here, how Federal Reserve Bank says that you should handle that before this housing crash starts that is coming up very, very fast. See, it is by the same pundits. All right, so anything that, because knowing what I know, and by the way, one more thing I forgot to point it out when we were comparing those everything, and I had mentioned IRAs and 401ks are in the step right direction, but there's better than that. I do not own any IRAs or 401ks. Knowing what I know, I do not own any of them, and neither will I ever own it. And I'm not knocking out, IRAs or 401ks. They are a great savings vehicle, for people who are not disciplined, or who do not know any better. Yes, everyone should at least get into that one, all right? But we just happen to know something even better, that can take your money put a turbo booster to your money. That's the all right. So now coming back to this thing in 2007, I want you to go back to 2007. Any recommendation, because knowing what I know, any recommendations we may has to meet our quality standards, and the money should be liquid, that you can get it out if ever you want to take it out, and especially even during the crash, you should be able to get it out, number one. Number two is money should be safe from losses. And I go one step further that you should keep your profits also and never even put those profits on risk, So that way you are doubly compounding your money because your money is working, and then the profits that you have kept up till that time, they are also growing. So that's how you put up. And then like Warren Buffett said, have a good rate of return, and the best rate of return is in the stock market. So you should not fear. Why, and it has to be in this order. Why it is important to have it in this order? In 2007, I do not know if you experienced it or not. If you did not, then you're lucky. And when the crash started happening, just as it has been happening in the last couple of weeks, here. People were calling up their financial institution wherever they had their money, and they wanted to take the money out. Did you know that? That money was frozen at that time, and you could not touch your own money, your own IRAs and 401ks. And people were watching their money go down every day. Every day they would listen to the news. Hey, the market went down 5% here, 10% there, 5% here. And it went as low as it lost up to 60%. All right, folks. They lost more than half of their life savings during that crash there. Wow. It did not have to happen. All right. With us, the way we show it, I've been showing it to you that money is liquid, even though it gets frozen at that time, right? And it's all set up on autopilot. You don't have to ever worry, right? But if you needed to take that money, you could just with one telephone call take it away. That's why liquidity is very, very important. All right. And then safety of the principal, I already told you, there, I want you to keep all of your profits also, and your principal should be safe and never be on risk anymore. And have a good rate of return, all right? And, that's in the stock market. So starting today, you do not have to fear the stock market anymore. Let me, before I get into that Federal Reserve Bank study recommendations, let me just share with you how this strategy works. Okay? And by the way, I have just not updated it, but the results are exactly the same. And this is, what is this? A 20-year or 15-year report right here. Okay, we'll go to the 20-year average in a minute. This is someone who went directly into the S&P 500. Remember this red thing? Yes, you're right. The red line right here, someone directly into the stock market. And this is our strategy, of getting that upside only up to that cap. So here, in the very first year, stock market made 31%. And here with our strategy, the cap is 12.5% in this example, right? So you just made only 12.5%. Then next year it was 26, 19, then 12.5 only. Then in 2000 it went down negative 10%. You did not lose. It's zeros. It kept on going for 3 years. You did not lose the principal or the gains you had accumulated till that time. Then the next year after that, 2003, it went up 26%. You made 15%. Then it was 2004, 8.99%. And you get to keep all that 8.99% because it is less than that 12.5% cap. So you kept all that money. Now, let's just look at it, the 20-year average. With all these ups and downs, right, it averaged out to 5.7%. And folks, here it was 7.3% even with that cap. And now then when we put that money in tax-free and stuff, that is huge. Huge. That's how, okay? And these people, if they had it the way we set it up with Uncle Sam, okay, and it's all growing, compounding, and paying out all tax-free. So then for that one, okay, you would have to have about 12 to 13% rate of return, because then you have to pay taxes at the end of the year, right, to net this much. All right. So here in the first place, you came out with only about 5.7%. So this is amazing. I cannot, and all this money is set up on autopilot. You don't even have to think about it. And, and I want you to be funky when it comes to the money. Let it keep on working for you without any financial stress on your part. Now, let me get to, remember earlier I had mentioned, okay, we showed you how to optimize your money, and then we showed you how to put that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 horses to work for you instead of you working alone, right? So one of the horses is, having the money in tax-free environment, and that is one of big horses, that will make you a millionaire, number one. Number two, I showed you so many different ways, okay, other horses. Now, this is even a bigger horse than that, sitting, if you are a homeowner, please pay very, very close attention, right? If you're a homeowner and you have built up any equity at all right? And it's not, we've been doing the planning ourselves, like I said earlier, that our clients did not lose. Then, well, Federal Reserve Bank came up with the study, and here's the study, right? And the gist of that study is, the Federal Reserve Bank study, it said, home equity. At that time, okay, they were saying if you have any left, because they wanted to give hope to the people who had lost their money in that stock market and stuff, and okay, were losing in the lost it in the housing crash too, and so they said if you have any left. But right now, situation is different. Home prices had been constantly going up ever since. You might have even doubled your home value, or even up to triple, depending which area of the country that you live in. All right. So they said it should be separated. That equity should not be trapped under the roof of your home. Homes are meant to live in, not to store cash. Right? And let me repeat it. Homes and houses are meant to live in, not to store cash. All right? So they said it should be separated, and it should be completely separate in a separate side fund. And they are recommending IRAs and 401ks, that you take the money out and put it into IRAs and 401ks. But since I know okay better than IRAs and 401ks, that's what we suggest. But at least do that. Separate your equity out before this crash coming up. All right, folks. And you have to move very, very fast once that panic starts up in the housing market also. And at that time, all lenders, no one will ever let you take that equity out. You're right, and no one will loan you any money. So it should be separated out. And at least, if nothing else, put it into an IRA or a 401k if you don't want to, put it into that other program that I had been sharing with you. All right. So let me repeat it again. Home equity should be separated and put to work to boost your savings as well as your retirement, and to reduce your risk. Wow. What do they mean by reduce the risk? Folks, this is huge. Let me give you an example. All right. Say you have a $500,000 home. All right. And in California, you can't even find a condo for less than that. But again, just to, as a simple example, $500,000 home, and the value goes down 10% only, just a modest 10%. Last time it went down as low as 60%. People lost more than half of the value of their homes, right? But just to get, keep it simple, it goes down 10%. Folks, you are going to guaranteed lose. Mark my words, you are going to guaranteed lose $50,000. All right? Instantly. Now, we never stop to think about it this way. Think about it. How long will it take for you to save that $50,000 that you lose instantly? Wow. That's why Federal Reserve Bank came up with this study that, hey, separate that equity out. Every time, okay, when it goes up, take it out, put it into a side fund, okay. And by the way, it has to be responsibly. Let me just point this thing out to you. If you are not mature enough to stick to the plan, then please do not do it. And here's the reasoning. Last time in 2004, 5, and 6, when the prices were going up, and I'm sure many of the people were looking at Zillows, seeing, hey, this month my home appreciated this much in value and stuff. And so many of them, they were getting excited that we are already millionaires, but then the crash happened and that was a bad dream for them. But many of them, they tried to do that home equity planning themselves. All right. So many of them, they pulled up that and they were paying off their credit card debts, and going and buying RVs, okay, or in boats and stuff like that, right? That was one kind of people. The other kind, okay, quote unquote, responsible people, or, because they didn't know any better, so it's not their fault. They tried to do the best for themselves and their family, okay. So they took that money out and invested it into the stock market because they didn't know any better. And they didn't know how to set up these things, But the ones who set it up this way, they did not lose. They are way ahead of others. All right. So then what happened when the things crashed? You might even know someone, or it could even have happened to you, that many of the people, not only did they lose that money, they lost their homes also because it was irresponsibly invested. No. If you cannot do it responsibly and the right way, and we call it the successful way, and by the way, I have those resources either at the bottom or at the top, okay, and if you want to learn more what all you can do step by step, okay, those resources are there for you. All right. So the equity should be separated, like the Federal Reserve Bank says, and then to reduce your risk. Now let's take an example of the risk. We do not realize in California, this is the different kind of a risk. When the prices go down, you guarantee lose. You're right, if you have not taken that equity out and put it to work on the side in a side fund. All right. Now, but the other risk is, in California, we live in an earthquake and a fire country, and in many other parts of the country are floods and tornadoes and stuff like that, right? Okay. Let me just get to the point, you might have heard about Hurricane Katrina a few years ago, right? At that time, Texas and Louisiana and stuff, okay, they were very badly flooded. So the reporter goes to the mayor of Fort Arthur, Texas, and he says, "Sir, you just lost your home. What do you have to say?" He said, "Well, sadly, we had just paid it off." Now, it was the same mayor who was gladly, happily paying the extra payments and stuff to have a paid up home, right? I also say that everyone should have a paid up home because that is the biggest financial security. We got to have a roof under our head, okay, and it should be paid off. But the key difference is the way most of the people pay off, or the way we've been used to, and the way we suggest, and that has been now confirmed by that Federal Reserve Bank study, that money should be taken out into a completely aside fund away from that. So that same mayor of Fort Arthur, Texas, he said, sadly. Now, before that, it was the same person making those extra payments to pay off that home, right? Because at that time, they did not know any better, right? They were doing it, trying to make life better for themselves and their family, right? But when the reality hits, then it is something completely different. That is when that same person who was paying it off before happily says, sadly, we just paid it off. I don't want you to be in that situation. Neither does the Federal Reserve Bank says. So don't take my word for it. Federal Reserve Bank study is suggesting that. All right. Number 2 example. You might have heard about a very powerful senator at that time, Senator Trent Lott. All right. He lost his home also. Another reporter goes there and says, sir, what do you have to say? He said, well, this was going to be our retirement adobe for me and my wife. And he said, okay, we had planned it that after I retire from the Senate, we were going to live in this thing and live forever because it would be paid off. All right. And he said, this is the only house we had. This is the only thing we had left. And we just paid it off recently. Wow. Just imagine that. Before that, they had paid it off that, hey, this would be our retirement. We won't have no bills and stuff like that. But if they had done this thing, okay, listen to the Federal Reserve Bank study, which, okay, you have no excuse, and so then they would not have to say, sadly, we just paid it off. But now, here's the other side. If they had done the planning the way Federal Reserve Bank study says, right? The same thing happened. The home is gone, okay, or earthquake or fire, whatever, right? You have the money sitting in a side fund over there. You could go get some minimum of down payment. Never ever pay more than the minimum for a down payment. See, that's all in my course. The good, bad, and the ugly of that. Never ever pay, and the money should be in your pocket, always safe and sound, and then growing the way I showed it to you before. All right. So, if you had this thing done, the home equity planning correctly, and the same thing happened, you just go pull out a little bit of money, for the down payment and go buy another house, and in a few months, your life would be back on track. And without that, after losing everything, even though you think that you have a homeowner's insurance and stuff, but it still takes years to rebuild those homes, and it would be, it would disrupt your life. You won't be able to work like before because, okay, you don't have no home. Your life is disrupted. So, folks, with the way the Federal Reserve Bank study shows, okay, that if you're a homeowner and you have any equity built into that home, it should be taken out, put in separately, into a side liquid fund. Yes, you're right. Rather than being trapped in the under the roof of your head, because the same pundits are saying that, hey, very, very fast that housing crash is starting also, and folks, you have to move fast. If you like what you just saw, you have to move fast, because once that panic starts to happen, house prices go down. No one will lend you money to get that equity out, because then they know, okay, that, hey, they are going to lose out. All right. So this luxury is only available now before that panic happens. Some of the banks might have even stopped lending on those home equities anymore. Get that money out. All right. And then, like Federal Reserve Bank study said, okay, put it into those IRAs and 401ks. But knowing what I know, I proved it to you before, that there is a much, much, much better program than IRAs and 401ks. But at least do yourselves and your family a favor, get that equity out. So that's the first thing, okay? And we don't do that. And then put it into an RA or a 401k or that other plan that I'm going to show you, which incorporates everything into one. All right, and so that way your money will be growing much. One more question I keep on getting from a lot of people, but when we take the loan out, that's going to create an extra mortgage payment on it. Yes, it will. However, what I had shown it to you earlier, the money is in the side fund, it is growing much faster than what you would be paying for those mortgages. All right. See, remember I showed it to you in that example of that 20-year average on that particular example. It was about 7.5% you made, and the loans these days are around 3.5%. So you borrow it at 3.5%, and you save it at 7.5%. You are just doubling that borrowed money also. Just think about it this way, folks. So this is the knowing how the money works. It's mind-boggling and amazing. Now, you know how much profit margin do the banks, after all the expenses and stuff, okay, they work on? They work on probably 0.5% to 1%, or around there, around 1%. All right. And so when we go to the bank, on one side they are taking your money deposits, and on the other side, of that cage, they are lending you the money. You're right. So they give you 0.5% or 1%, and then they are loaning you that same money on that other side at around 3.5%. You're right. And then after taxes and their expenses and stuff, they are only making about a 1% net return on their money. So they are just even about that 1% on borrowed money. They made about a profit on the other side, by lending it again. They borrowed your money and lend it to someone else or even you on the other side, right? And their profit was only about 1%, and they make billions with a B. All right. But the example I showed you earlier, if you borrowed the money at 3.5% and you made even 7%, that is, you have doubled your money. You made 3.5-4% on your borrowed money. All right. But you have to be responsible with this money. All right. Otherwise, I don't want you to just get excited. And if you are going to go borrow that money and go buy your boat or RV or pay off your other debts and stuff like that, okay, and that is irresponsible. All right. And if you want to know how to do all of these things step by step and where to put that money, I'm going to show it to you right now, where you put that money in autopilot. You're right. And or we have that thing in the course either below or at the top, okay, that home equity preservation, course, and that financial course. These are our two most popular. So I'm giving you the resources, right here. But you have to act fast. You have to act fast. Otherwise, this will just be a bad dream. Like I said, if you have a $500,000 home, you just lost a modest 10%. That is $50,000 guaranteed, lost immediately when the house prices go down. And like last time it went down up to 60%, and that's like more than half the value. $500,000 home, you lost 60%. That is, you lost around 400,000, about 300,000. Okay. That's mind-boggling. Many of the people don't even make that much money in their whole lifetime that you would lose instantly, and you're sitting on a gold mine, but taking on all that risk. So Federal Reserve Bank study says, they get that money out and put it to work. So I cannot emphasize. So in the end, now let me just share it with you. I had promised you as to where the IRS says to put all that money that we've been discussing all the way through. IRS says, so where are the answers? IRS says, okay, you set up the money according to these tax codes, and it complies with the TEFRA, DEFRA, TEMRA laws. By the way, these IRS rules have been on the books for over a century, so this is nothing new that I found out. Okay, like I said, rich and famous have figured it out. So you have to set this thing up and according to that your IRS rules, and then it passes that litmus test along with that the TEFRA, TEMRA laws. Then you have just put a turbo booster to your money to take it to whole new levels. All right. Now, I had also promised you that I'm going to show you which program does it all. It incorporates everything into it. All right. So, remember in the beginning I mentioned, okay, my planning is different than any other one, because I set out to find the answers, to financial security, how to have financial security no matter what happens to the economy. Number two was no matter what happens to the stock market, that you're all safe, you're right, and getting only the upside. Number three was no matter what happens to the taxes, because one party says we'll increase taxes, the other one says we'll decrease it. You don't have to be. I want you to be completely funky. And then I had mentioned, we don't ever stop to think about it. What if we have a heart attack, stroke, cancer, or something like that, and we cannot bring in the money like before? All right. So no matter what happens to your health, and then get only the upside of the stock market without the downside risk and keep the profits also, and have all of this thing incorporated. Okay, either you do it manually, or there is one program that does it all within one program and set your money up on autopilot, so you do not have to, okay. And so if you qualify to get into that program, okay, it's called I call it the MFTAI program. You're right, MFTAI program. And this MFTAI program offers several unique benefits that most other financial vehicles do not offer. All right. And unlike any qualified plans, IRAs, 401ks, and 403bs, etc., with this program, there are no caps or limits. You can dump in as much money as you want to. Even it's just amazing, folks. Yes, okay. So we'll see, with all those other IRAs and 401ks, you can only put certain amount of money. And then with this one, there is no age restrictions when you can take the money out. See, with IRAs and 401ks, there is age 59 and a half that you cannot touch your money. Or if you are successful and you don't need the money, even in your retirement years, and if you do not start to take that RMDs, they call it, the required minimum distribution, by your age 70 and a half, you are hugely taxed. No, I don't want you to be, okay, constrained by how much you can put it in. In this one, I call it, the bucket analogy. So you can start up a bucket, and fill it up, and then if you need to, then start up another bucket if you need to put in more money, or you can start up a bigger bucket and then keep on dumping in as okay, money comes in, or whichever sources it comes in, keep on dumping it into it. So, and there are so many other benefits in this program too, and it's called what I call is the MFTAI program. And so this is the one program that incorporates everything, and all of your financial security is in here, and it becomes self-completing. If you cannot keep on putting the money in there, if you have health problems, you cannot work like before. When income stops, bills don't stop, and financial disaster starts for most of the people, this program becomes self-completing up to the limits that you state in there. All right. So this is that key program, folks. And if you have any questions, I have put it in there. My email address is right underneath. please send me a detailed email and I would be happy to, but always include your cell phone number or daytime phone number with area code, because I'm terrible at typing. And number two, I'm just so busy these days, and the best thing is for me to pick up the phone. And if you send me your cell phone, I can text you those links for where to find the answers and stuff like that. So I want you to be completely stress-free. All right, so please always include your, and otherwise we have designed these resources, they are either underneath or at the top, how to be financially secure no matter what happens to the economy, stock market, taxes, or even your health, right? And number two is, that home equity planning that we just discussed. If any of you are homeowners, and you have built up any equity, you have to move fast. So get the money out, and then if you need help where to put it, or the MFTAI program, get me that, send me the information. We would be very, very happy to help you. Or if you have an advisor, they already have either put you into this program already, congratulations, you have the best of the best person who's done it, And if you are not on that program, right, then you might want to consider, that the benefits that I just showed you. And if you came in late or anything, please, this thing will be, the recordings will be on the media that you might be seeing. I'll be posting it on all the media, and especially on my Facebook page right here. You can go back and listen to it and grasp it. And if you have any questions and stuff, and shoot me an email with the details, and I would be very happy to answer. And my wish is for you is to live the lifestyles of the rich and famous and be completely worry-free and not be worried about what is happening, the crash happening right now, plus the home prices crash that is coming up. I want you to be completely safe. That way, that's how I say, that people who had used our strategies, not only they did not lose any money, they are way ahead of other people who might have recovered from those losses because they did not lose in the first place. All right? So, if you feel that I make sense, then share this link with other people, invite them over. One day they will thank you. And this is my mission. To expose as many people as possible that these strategies are here, that they can take use of it, and they do not have to be scared of the stock market. They should be getting that stock market returns without the fear. And I explained it how it is done, and then that. The home equity planning, like the Federal Reserve Bank said, you're right. So these are two very, very important things, that you need to preserve. But you have to move fast, folks. Time is running out, before the banks stop lending you and stuff like that, or before the stock market keeps on crashing even further. So with that, I want to thank you so much for your time. Blessings, stay safe, and these days I am doing it at least once a day, couple times a day. I'm going live with different topics, all right. So I am join me, and I do one in the morning, either 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, and one in the evenings, and so join me. I go in depth into these things, and invite your other friends and family, to so they can have financial security also. Knowing what I know, I proved it to you that no one ever should be financially insecure. No. And you have all the resources now. With that, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you this evening on a different topic. With that, blessings. Have a great day. Bye-bye.